Good morning. Welcome to Meets Route Shop. I'm Jason. Today we've got Creampuff, my 1979 Chevrolet C10 Silverado on the lift. I put it up on the lift. We got to look at some chassis stuff, look at bushings, steering components, bearings, shocks, stuff like that. After I purchased this vehicle, there's some upgrades that need to be done to this thing. She's pretty worn out underneath, but let's go along. I'll show you what we're going to look at and kind of give you some tips and tricks. Let's take a look at it. Okay, at the front of the truck, I went ahead and take a look at the tires. These are shot. All four tires are dry rotted. You'll see cracks all around the edge here. You see cracks inside the lugs in the tread pattern here. So all these tires are going to need to be changed. But on the front end of a vehicle, steering end, you want to grab your tire like this, top and bottom, and you want to move it. Now, there is a little bit of play here. I don't believe it's ball joint. I believe it's a loose bearing, but we'll get into this a little bit deeper here in a second. So after you get done tipping it top to bottom, like I said, this checking your ball joints, checking bearing, you want to go ahead like left to right here. What would be your left to right? You're checking your steering components there. So I don't feel any play. I'm gonna slide my light here up underneath. I'm gonna watch that steering linkage while I'm doing this to see if your tie rod ends are moving, if your stabilizer, all that stuff's moving. So let's do that. Here's a quick tip for you guys. If you can see down here, for a roll around light, for a work light, all I did is I took one of my old fluorescent lights from the ceiling, welded up some brackets, screwed it to it, and took a 25-foot extension cord and wired it to it. That way I can roll around the shop, plug it right in the wall, and I got a good source of light down there. So that's just a quick tip for you. So while I'm moving this, I'll get a better picture. But looking to see the stabilizer bar, your steering link and all that, make sure that that is not moving when you move them. Grab a hold of it, shake it around. It seems pretty solid. So I think the steering is good on this vehicle. All right, so up underneath the vehicle here on the passenger side, you got your outer tie rod end, you've got your tie rod coupler, you got your inner tie rod end, this is an idler arm that holds one end of the center link. You got the center link here, you've got your pitman arm here that comes off the steering box, and then again you got your inner tie rod end, you got your tie rod coupler, and your outer tie rod end. So what you do want to grab all this stuff, I want to grab the center link, move it around, see if you can move it, pitman arm, all that, which I already have, and she's solid. Now she needs to be cleaned, so I'll probably dig out the pressure washer again and pressure wash the whole undercarriage of this truck. One thing I do want to point out, so here's my fuel pump. This is a mechanical fuel pump. They're known for going out the diaphragm on the inside, so you start filling your crankcase full of gasoline. So since it's an older fuel pump, it's not bad, but I'm gonna go ahead and change it anyway. When I do that, I'm gonna change my return fuel line and my pressure line because it's older rubber. You can tell it's been on the truck for a while. So underneath here, I can tell someone's been in there. So I've got a new oil pan gasket. Seems pretty clean. I've got a new starter up under here. So they kept pretty good care of this truck, but we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do a oil change as well. So we'll probably start draining oil and then look at the bearings and the brake parts while we're letting the oil drain. Let's go ahead and get that done. All right, the oil pan drain bolt's 9/16. And He-Man put it on there, it looks like. Holy smokes. You don't need to smoke down your drain bolt that hard. Once I pull this, I'm gonna pull it out. Once I pull this bolt, I'm gonna pull it out and I wanna see if there's any metal shavings on it. It looks good. It looks pretty clean. It looks like they probably actually changed the oil recently, but we're gonna do it anyway. All right, once she's slowed down enough or drained out oil, just go ahead and put your oil pan drain plug back in. All right, next we want to go ahead and change the oil filter. It's right up next to the pan on these small block Chevys. Oh man, somebody really put that one on there too. All right, all right, for this I'm running a Wix. It's a 51061 filter number. What I'm gonna do is I'll write today's date and mileage on the filter as well. Go ahead, run a 15W40 diesel oil, and then I'm gonna fill the filter and we'll put it up on there. Make sure on these filters. Number one, that the old oil, or excuse me, the old seal comes off the old filter, because if you stack these up, they will blow out. So go ahead and take a little bit of oil on your finger, run it around that rubber seal before you put this thing on. Like I said, just hand tight a little bit more. All right, so looking up underneath the truck now, I got it up on the lift. I can see I got trans fluid leak coming out of the speedometer sensor. Let's see. I want to say the truck has a bit of an exhaust leak as well. So I'm gonna look up under here. If I had to guess, those donuts have gone bad on that exhaust, but all right. So besides that oil leak on the transmission at the speedometer sensor, I don't see any real big wet spots. Output shaft may be leaking, but everything else looks pretty clean up under here. It does have, looks like newer shocks on the front of this thing, so that's something I won't have to buy. There's that new starter I was telling you about. Let's check the drive shaft here, see if I got any drive shaft play. Not there. I had a bunch of mud daubers back here, but center bearing looks all right. Looks like it may have been changed. All right, so this U-joint looks good. I don't see any play coming back here to the rear end. I don't see any major play. The exhaust is kind of rotted a little bit. Looks like it may be, yeah, she's spinning on the shaft, so she probably needs a new exhaust. She looks pretty nasty anyway, but continuing in the back, yeah, tailpipe's all rotten. Looks like someone's put some muffler tape on it here. Looks like somebody put some muffler tape on it. Yeah, it's definitely rotted out there. And if you notice, these are probably the original shocks to the truck. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna change those original shocks. Looks like somebody's actually put a new rubber hose on the back, so I don't have to worry about that brake line. Let's see. Yeah, over here, yep, these are probably original shocks. I don't see any weeping coming out from the brake drum on either side. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull these drums off, take a look at them, see how those wheel seals look. But I mean, the truck looks pretty solid for the most part. I got a little bit of rot in the cab here, which that's expected. I think the other side as well. And yeah, and now I'm looking again. I think that output shaft on that transmission's leaking, so we'll probably change that as well. But other than that, it seems like a pretty solid truck. So, rubber lines for the fuel hoses that are definitely old. We may change on those, we may not. But all right, let's get these wheels off. Oh yeah, she's been lightened up here in the rocker area, so maybe we'll do a little bit of rust repair there. But all right, let's get these wheels blown off. All right, one thing you want to do while you're under here, you want to check your diff fluid. Looks like this may have been leaking a little bit. It's hard to tell where it's coming from, but go ahead. You'll put a 3/8 drive ratchet right here on your plug. And then go ahead, unscrew your plug. Stick your finger in there and see where it's at. She's full. All right, well, that's good. So at least I don't have to worry about diff fluid then. So the diff is full. That's how you check your diff fluid. All right, now that the wheel's off, we're gonna go ahead and move on to our drum inspection. This is obviously the rear. So someone already stripped out one lug on this, so it looks like I'll be ordering some studs and lug nuts. But go ahead and get a hold of your drum, see if it'll come off. Give her a few wraps. She won't come loose. You'll have to get in here and you have to loosen up the shoes a little bit so she'll pop off. She's a little tight. right, now the drum's off, you can take a look and see my wheel cylinders aren't leaking, but they're older, so I'll probably replace them anyway. But it looks like my axle seal's leaking. Looks like there's some gear lube hanging down off the bottom of the brakes here. It doesn't look like brake fluid, and it smells like gear lube, so if it smells like gear lube, it's gear lube. All right, well, that's great. So that means we'll just go ahead and do a brake job on this thing. We'll do wheel cylinders, we'll do shoes, springs, and we'll do a wheel seal as well. So let's go ahead and get this back together. I don't know how, but there's like 3 different sizes of lug nuts on this thing. All right, now that we've got the back looked at, we know what we need to order back there, we're gonna move on to the front, and I've already taken the wheel off. One thing you wanna look at here are rubber lines. So you got your rubber brake line here that goes here. Someone's actually changed these probably within the last couple of years. I had already ordered a set because I always change these on every old vehicle that I buy, but these are actually in great shape. It looks like somebody's recently changed those probably within the last few years. But looking at the brake, the front of the brake's not all rusty. It's got plenty of meat left on the rotor, and then the brake pads are almost brand new. So someone has been in here and done a bunch of brake work on it. But it's got newer shocks, like I said, newer brake line. It's got grease fittings for all your ball joints. So it looks like somebody has serviced this front end before. It's actually really tight and good shape. So all I'm gonna do on this is I'm gonna throw the wheel back on there and not look at it again. All right, now that we got the truck back on the ground, we did the visual inspection, ordered a bunch of things, ordered rear wheel seals, bearings, rear wheel cylinders, shoes, spring kit for both sides, ordered a fuel pump, ordered a rear main seal, a pump housing, or excuse me, a pump seal for the transmission. So we'll pull the engine, we'll pull the transmission, change all that stuff out. While we're in there, we'll change the donut gaskets on the exhaust manifold gaskets. The bolts that hold it all together are pretty rusty. We'll change those too. But we'll get to that a different day, pulling all that stuff out. But for now, we're going to continue with the easy fixes. I did fix the starting issue. What was going on is when you'd go to start, there was no power to the distributor. As soon as you'd let off from start, relax it into the run position, then it would get power. So somewhere in the system there's a broken wire, bad fusible link, something like that. So I did the completely wrong thing, and what I did is I wired a relay in from the starter where the switch sends power to the starter to turn it over, and that fires a relay that closes a relay, which then sends battery power to the distributor on the positive side. So now she starts in the start position. I know that's not the way you're supposed to fix it. You should go dig through all the wiring and find out what's wrong with it, but to be honest with you, I don't want to do that. It's an older truck, and I know the wiring's probably a mess, so I just went ahead and wired that relay in there. But now we're going to go ahead, we're going to change the tail light housings, and then I want to change the door striker. Actually, I'm going to put a piece of PVC, a little bushing over the door striker to lift that driver's door up. All right, let's go ahead and tackle this door sag issue. This has bad hinge pins, and then the striker bolt needs to be moved as well. This door, you really got to slam to get it to close or open. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove the whole door. This doesn't have power windows, doesn't have power door locks. There's no speaker in the door, so I'm not removing a bunch of wiring to do it. It's just 6 9/16 headed bolts. I'll throw a jack underneath the bottom edge of the door to hold it and kind of be my assistant while I remove all 6 bolts. But make sure to take a magic marker, mark around where your hinges are on the door. That way you know when you're putting it back together, approximate location for where the door goes. So let's just go ahead and knock that out. Kind of hard to see, but here's the top 2 bolts on the top hinge, the bottom bolt, top bolt on the bottom hinge, and then there's 2 bolts here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and undo these. Remember, there's 9/16 headed bolts. Throw the jack under the front of the door. Another reason for me taking this door off the hinges is, if you'll remember, this driver's door has that lock cylinder blown out. So it's a lot easier to repair that. I can just throw it on my welding bench, weld up the hole and fix that versus trying to do it on the truck. So that's one of the other reasons why I'm pulling this door off. All right, as you can see, we've got the door off. You can see this hinge on the bottom, which is usually when it wears out. She's pretty loose. So we're gonna go ahead and we'll knock these pins up and out. We'll change the bushings out. And then after I repair that lock cylinder on the door, we'll go ahead and throw the door back on. All right, now that we got the door hinge side off, we got to press out these bushings here, which good swift whack with the hammer ought to knock them loose. Once you get them raised up, you can usually just snatch them out with your hand, but otherwise just take a pair of pliers, grab them, and yank them out. All right, you take your door pin hinge kit. What I'm using is SKP. It's part number SK703264. And you've got these sintered bronze bushings, I think is what they are, and then you'll press them into the cups there, and then you'll put the door back on. Now is the perfect time to replace that little S-spring on your top door hinge. I don't have any, and I don't think the parts store have any in stock, so we're going to forgo that for now. All right, there you have it. There's the top door hinge. She's nice and tight. She's solid. We'll go ahead and do the bottom now. All right, the bottom's in. Little tiny bit of play, but very, very little. A lot better than what it was. So now I'm going to go ahead and we'll fix that door cylinder, that lock cylinder, and then we'll get this door put back on. All right, you can see I got the door cylinder fixed here. What I did is I just cut out a piece of metal, traced the opening off the passenger side door, and then burned in a new piece and put that lock in there. I got the door hung, and I will tell you, I've never seen a more ill-fitting door than this door. I cannot get it to shut with anything less than a slam. Anywhere where I put the striker or hinges, no matter what I do, this thing just does not want to shut right. You got to slam it to get it to shut. I don't know if that's a C10 thing or what, but if that is, my God, that's a horrible design. So, all right, well, let's move on to the belts. All right, went to do belts, got the alternator belt off, found out Rock Auto sent me the wrong belts. So we're not doing that. Let's move on to tail light replacement. So these are pretty beat up. They're the factory tail lights. Real simple swap. Get a screw gun, 4 screws, pop them out. Looks like somebody was nice enough when they spray bombed the truck. They spray bombed the inside of the tail lights. So really, ultimately, I should probably change these, but I'm going to forget about it and just put on new lenses anyway. All right, so here's the right-hand replacement tail light. It's a TYC. It's part number 11-1282-09A. It's A in alpha. So I did get the matching chrome one. Ooh, that's shiny. Just go ahead, put it back in. And never mind the painted over lenses. All right, part number for the driver's side is 11-1283-09 alpha. Again, it's TYC. It's a good idea as well while you have the lenses off to check the light bulbs. I didn't. All right, both taillight lenses are in. Like I said, those are TYCs. They were like $6 a piece on Rock Auto, so why wouldn't you put them on? The other ones are pretty beat up, but these already make the truck look better. They fit like crap, so it's perfect for $6. All right, that's it for Meets Rod Shop. That's all we're going to do today on the C10. We'll be bringing it back on here pretty shortly. Like I said, we got a bunch of other stuff we got to do. I think the next installment I'll show you, I'll pull out the bench seat, pull out the carpet. I'm going to show you how I repair my door panels because these are pretty torn up, pretty beat up. But it is the wrong way to do it. I'll just tell you that ahead of time. But anyway, appreciate you checking out the channel. Have a good day. And remember, keep your heads up and your stick on the ice.